everyone. This is Frequency Bone Summer Music Connection 15, Video 5. And I'm warming up in different kinds of ways these days. I just started playing. And I really feel like constantly moving my tongue around in an articulated way. That's usually what we do with our tongue, right? But there's many different kinds of articulation, obviously. So, in a sense, that was spontaneous because I went between single and double and back and forth, and I don't know exactly which one I'm going to do. And I just follow a natural impulse. Now, I think there's room for that in our playing. And I think any good plan has space in it. And if it doesn't, that says something about perhaps attitude, perhaps trying to be too perfect. And maybe some people are more hyper-organized, Sorry, I can't seem to get the lighting right because when I do it, make a video during the day in this particular room, that wonderful octagon window creates a lot of light, and then it just makes it more difficult for any lights that I have on in the room. So if it's a little dark, excuse me, or excuse the video. So there's room for spontaneity in everything. And as you heard from, if you watched the video 4, well, that's saying that without spontaneity, everything's pretty stiffly mechanical and a bit arrested, is what that was trying to say. But there's different ways of having that be a natural part. You can't say, no, I'm going to be spontaneous. It's not going to really work like that. There's certain impulses that move through you that is different than just being impulsive. Okay? So I know my body well enough that if I stay, for example, in a particular range, then I can do a lot of different things because that's the range I feel good in. So I just don't have to start every day with a long tone. And I think I've spoken about this in other videos. Or with the exact same slurs every day. And I feel it wanting to change. So I'm going with that change, knowing I'm not going to hurt my embouchure. And that I'm still going to get certain things accomplished at the basic level. But just having some freedom to noodle around in a range that feels comfortable, and maybe that'll give me certain indications of things, where to go to next. So just to say that is important. Now, on the last Zoom session, there's been 6 already, and I think they've been going very well in terms of the content that's coming through and people's participation. Now, they're getting a lot of material that they would never have probably equated to trombone playing, and maybe not all of it even to music. For if you're coming from, in my case, music is a living thing, you can look at anything simply, and then with more detail, and then extremely complex and intricate, right? You see what I'm saying? So I can say, well, these are glasses. They go on my face for my eyes to see better, okay? But at the same time, you can look at the history of glasses. When did they first develop? What materials were they using? What was the first magnification device? And even though it looks like a simple design, the materials still have to be made. And so we start creating templates like, okay, this is a manufacturing place that produces this kind of material, and maybe even specifically for glasses. All right? So there's an intricacy. Think when you go to the eye doctor and they're taking you through all these different things, it's just not, oh, does this one work, that one work? It's simple in a sense, but it gets a little bit more complex. Oh, you have astigmatism. Oh, you're sensitive to certain kinds of light, and we need to give you maybe a little bit of this over your glasses, or a little bit of that, or you're sensitive to fluorescent light, all this kind of stuff. So the more involved someone is in that, let's say, a subject they're really dug into deeply, they're going to have an appreciation for a lot of the different parts and how they work together. So if I'm coming from music as a living thing, it brings in a lot of aspects of life. And I'm sure many of you have heard your teachers say all these different analogies. Well, it's like this. Play like you're blowing out a candle. Playing, no, it depends. If you're playing like you're blowing the candles of a birthday cake, it's your birthday, and you're going to blow the candles, that might not be great for, a lot of Brahms chorales, that kind of air going through the horn. So everything is a spectrum, and there's all different kinds. So if you can ask yourself, what kind? You've already opened up a wonderful territory where you won't get so pigeonholed into thinking a clean articulation sounds like this. The way to play this is like this. So a lot of what's going on here, and anything I talk about, is to have more breadth and more spectrum in what we do, so we don't get so tight. Now, in the beginning, someone might need just really clear little simple ideas. Now, those little simple ideas might have a lot in them. All right? But you say, here, let's try taking this bubble blower, right? Blow some bubbles. Feel, if you want it to be continuous, that your air has to be continuous. And that's a really great thing to do. Almost looks like an embouchure visualizer. That's what they used to call, the mouthpiece ring. Used to have a fancy name. I remember I first got one when I was 12 years old for Hanukkah. My dad said, well, here's your metal mouthpiece blower. your metal bubble blower. He said, I had to pay $12 for that. Now you'd have to pay a lot more. So analogies are wonderful. And sometimes when we go to ones that are really clear, look at the wind blow. Can you feel it? Can't see it though, can you? Unless it's blowing against you really hard, and then you really feel it. But you still can't see it. But you can see its effects on you because you're moving. Or you look at it blow across some water. Or a tree. Or you see things in the air that it's moving. But it itself is invisible. Now, the air is very feelable. But electromechanical life, electromagnetic life rather, is a little more unseen. Now if I shut off my light here, you see that? Now you see that it's on. But can you see the current? Now if you goof around with a broken wire, you'll feel a current. Sometimes you'll see a spark. So the unseen can manifest into the seen, heard, felt, right? Taste, touch. But the energy worlds, a better way of saying just the electromagnetic worlds, because there's many different levels of the energy worlds, they are unseen for, even your cell phone, right? You can't see the energy coming into it. But you can feel it. It doesn't always feel that great. And then over time, people get desensitized to it. Okay? So our thoughts are unseen, but then people see the results of them through our actions, through how they're treated, all sorts of things. And sometimes you can feel what someone's thinking. Not exactly what they're thinking, but sometimes you can feel the vibe, the quality of what they're thinking. Oh, that doesn't feel very good. Or, oh, they must be upset. And then, of course, you can see it in their face. You can't actually see the substance of that thought. You see its result on the rest of life. You can't say, here's a piece of love. But then you can if you say, wow, look at that card and the wonderful writing in it. That's love. I feel that. For example. So with air, it's totally unseen, not unfelt. You blow on a piece of paper, it starts to move. But my intention to blow air isn't necessarily seen. Now, if I put the trombone up to my face, you might think, I'm going to be seeing someone take a breath really, really soon and blow it through the instrument. So, was that the air or was that my lip? Now you can say it was both, but actually it was air vibrating my lip. I know this is obvious. Don't you love the obvious? Or do you miss it and take it for granted? It's just a question to ask, because the obvious sometimes has deeper answers than just brushing it off. Well, I know that. There's other things attached to it. All right? As I can see someone take a breath and go, wow, that's a really schooled breath. They were really taught how to breathe that way. Okay? I'm not saying anything is wrong with that. Let me be clear. It's just that it can be very obvious to me. And of course, you can see someone has a hard time breathing, tension come in, and all of this. So that tension, you might not be able to totally see the source of the tension. You say, well, your shoulders are coming up. That's a symptom. Or you're squinting before you play. That's a symptom. It's not the cause. So sometimes, for me, with music as a living thing, you go into the natural worlds. And you say, wait a minute. Look at that. And then sometimes you have to look for the symptoms of that. What's causing that wave in the water? It doesn't feel like it's very windy out. Could be something else. Fish coming to the surface or something. Or something more going on in there that you can't see. So there's an unseen aspect of life that probably is closer to the causative realms before they make themselves known in the seen, the heard, the felt realms of our senses. So saying that, I had no idea actually I was going to get into that now. My mind is way ahead of my ability to speak right now, as you can probably tell. So I'm just going to integrate them a little bit more. So I slowed down my thinking process a bit to be able to be coordinated with my ability to speak. And sometimes that's exactly what we have to do in our practice room. And this is where having other options can be useful. to our playing. For example, if I play something, we did something on Zoom session 6, where we were working with rhythm, pitch, and timbre, but in slightly different ways. And we were trying to build equations like rhythm plus pitch. If we think that, is that going to help what we're playing? Some people felt that was helping. Some people felt, a lot of people felt they had to think timbre first, and then pitch or rhythm. And I shocked myself. I said, I'm going to try rhythm and pitch. I don't think I've kind of tried that particular equation. And it felt great. And so, should I expect then that's always going to feel good? Will it feel good for the majority of the time right now? I don't know. I'll see. Now that felt extremely comfortable and easy to play. I was thinking rhythm and pitch. Rhythm as movement. Pitch as an intensity. And so with those two, I could feel where the pitch was kind of the stable, non-moving part, or not moving as quick as the tempo part in my mind. So they had this subtleness in terms of difference of what the speeds are. But they got very unified. And that feeling of pitch is here, but the rhythm keeps it moving. Because I found if I just think pitch, my playing goes right down a ditch. It really does. Things get stiff. And I found that with I would say a good over 80 to 85% of people. Now there's all sorts of difference why that would be. All sorts of reasons, why that would be. And here, my brain is going 1,000 miles an hour and my body can't totally keep up again. So it's curious when you're looking at these things, you realize, well, you're an instrument. You're an instrument. And to take that into account, so you can maybe warm up yourself so your speaking and your brain and your mechanism to speak, tongue, mouth, vocal cords, can actually keep up with it. For some reason today, my brain is like, one thought has like a whole planet on it. And sometimes I find myself wanting to speak faster than actually can at that point in time. So, I would suggest when you're playing a passage, why don't you play with rhythm, pitch, and timbre and find a different order for them that might work for you. Try 2 of them, rhythm and timbre, pitch and timbre. You know, play around with it. Or, I would try both, just think rhythm and see how that feels without a coupling. It's good to have a coupling. It's really good. So there's a lot in that. A little odd, a little quirky. I hope you get something out of it. Play with it. Open up the territory. Let yourself have some room to feel and think and play with the simplicity of a child.